Welcome to the channel Error Coins Hub. And before you spend another penny, you need to hear this story, because what if the change in your pocket could secretly make you a millionaire overnight? Most people walk past pennies on the ground without a second thought. They toss them into jars. They hand them over at checkout counters. They treat them like the smallest, most insignificant pieces of money in existence. But what if I told you that one particular penny from 1995 could be worth a staggering $9 million? Yes, you heard that right, $9 million for a single Lincoln cent that was minted in Denver, Colorado. And the truly mind-blowing part is that this coin could be hiding in your change right now, sitting in your couch cushions, rolling around in your car's cup holder, or tucked away in that old piggy bank you haven't opened since childhood. This isn't some fantasy or clickbait exaggeration. This is a documented reality that has turned ordinary people into millionaires simply because they took the time to examine their pocket change. And today I'm going to reveal everything you need to know about the 1995 Lincoln penny, the specific error that makes it worth millions, how to identify it with absolute certainty, and why collectors around the world are literally fighting over these rare copper treasures. But here's the thing, this isn't the only coin that could change your life, because after I tell you about this incredible 1995 penny, I'm going to reveal another Lincoln cent from the early 2000s that sold for millions at auction. A coin so rare and so valuable that finding one would be like winning the lottery without buying a ticket. So stick with me until the very end, because you're going to learn exactly what to look for, and trust me, you'll never look at pennies the same way again. Now, let me take you back to 1995, a year when the Denver Mint was producing hundreds of millions of Lincoln cents, business as usual, churning out coins that would circulate through the American economy, passing from hand to hand, register to register, completely unremarkable in almost every way. But something extraordinary happened during this production run, something that the quality control inspectors at the Mint somehow missed, and this mistake created what is now considered one of the most valuable error coins in American numismatic history. The 1995 Lincoln penny I'm talking about is what collectors call a double die obverse error. And before your eyes glaze over with technical jargon, let me explain exactly what that means in simple terms that will help you spot one of these coins if you're lucky enough to encounter it. When the United States Mint creates coins, they use dies, which are essentially metal stamps that press the design onto blank metal discs called planchets. And these dies are made from a master hub that contains the intricate details of the coin's design. Now, in a perfect world, the hub strikes the die once, creating a clear, sharp impression that will then be used to strike thousands or even millions of coins. But occasionally, something goes wrong during this die-making process. The hub might shift slightly between strikes, or it might strike the die more than once at slightly different angles. And when this happens, you get what's called a double die, which means that certain elements of the coin's design appear doubled or even tripled when you look at them under magnification. On the 1995 double die obverse Lincoln penny, this doubling is most visible on the word Liberty and the date 1995, and we're not talking about minor, barely there doubling that you need a microscope to see. No, this is strong, dramatic doubling that jumps out at you even with just a basic magnifying glass. The letters in Liberty appear to have a distinct shadow or echo, almost like you're seeing double when you've had too much to drink. Except this double vision is worth $9 million. The doubling on the date is equally impressive, with each digit showing clear separation and duplication that makes the numbers look thick and bold. And once you know what to look for, you'll never mistake this error for a regular 1995 penny. But here's where the story gets even more interesting, and this is what separates a valuable coin from a life-changing coin. You see, not all double die errors are created equal. The numismatic community grades these errors on a scale, with some showing only minor doubling that might add a few $100s to the coin's value, while others display such dramatic and obvious doubling that they become the holy grail of error coin collecting. And the 1995 penny we're discussing falls into that second category. It's what experts classify as a major double die, meaning the doubling is so pronounced, so unmistakable, that there's no debate about its authenticity or significance. Now, you might be wondering, how does a coin that was made by the millions suddenly become worth $9 million? And that's a fantastic question that gets to the heart of what makes rare coins so valuable. You see, it's all about supply and demand, and in this case, the supply is absolutely minuscule compared to the demand. The Denver Mint produced approximately 6.4 billion Lincoln cents in 1995. That's billion with a B, an absolutely staggering number that seems to defy scarcity. But here's the crucial detail that changes everything. Out of those billions of coins, only a tiny handful were struck with the double die error we're talking about. And I mean tiny, we're talking about maybe a few dozen examples that are known to exist in the entire world. And of those few dozen, only a small percentage are in pristine, uncirculated condition that would command the absolute top dollar at auction. This brings us to one of the most important concepts in coin collecting, grade, which refers to the condition of the coin. Coins are graded on a scale from 1 to 70, with 1 being barely identifiable and 70 being absolutely perfect, never touched, never circulated, looking exactly as it did the moment it left the mint. And when it comes to rare error coins like our 1995 D double die obverse, the difference between a coin graded MS-65 and one graded MS-68 can be millions of dollars, literally. Millions. The $9 million example that has the coin collecting world buzzing was graded MS-69, which is about as close to perfect as you can get without hitting that elusive MS-70. This particular coin had been discovered in an original mint-sealed bag by an incredibly lucky collector who had purchased bags of pennies directly from the Denver Mint back in 1995, hoping to find something special. And boy, did they hit the jackpot. The coin had never been touched by human hands, never circulated through commerce, never been scratched or dinged or exposed to the elements. It was pristine, flawless. A museum-quality specimen that represented the absolute best example of this already rare error. And when it finally came up for auction at a major numismatic event, the bidding war was intense. Collectors from around the world, many participating via phone and internet, drove the price higher and higher, past 1 million, past 5 million, until it finally hammered down at $9 million. Making it one of the most expensive pennies ever sold and certainly the most valuable Lincoln cent in existence. But here's what makes the story even more exciting for you, and this is why you need to pay very close attention, because while that particular MS-69 example sold for $9 million, there are other examples of this same error in lower grades that are still worth hundreds of thousands of dollars. Imagine finding a circulated example, one that had been used in everyday transactions, showing wear and tear from being handled and spent, and discovering it's still worth $300,000 or $500,000 or even more. That's the power of this particular error. And that's why you need to check every single 1995 D penny that comes into your possession. Now let me tell you exactly how to identify this treasure if you come across one. First, you need a decent magnifying glass, nothing fancy. Just something that gives you 10x to 20x magnification will do the trick. Then you need to focus on 2 specific areas of the coin, the date and the word liberty. Start with liberty, because that's where the doubling is most dramatic and easiest to spot. Look at each letter carefully, especially the L, the I, the B, and the R on a genuine 1995 D double die obverse. You'll see clear separation in these letters, almost like each letter has been stamped twice with the second impression slightly offset from the first. It's not fuzzy. It's not the result of wear or damage. It's a clean, distinct doubling that creates the appearance of a shadow or echo. Then move your attention to the date. Examine each digit carefully, the 1, the 9, the other 9, and the 5. You should see similar doubling, with each number appearing thicker and bolder than it should, with visible separation between the original strike and the doubled impression. Here's a critical warning though, and I cannot stress this enough. There are many double die pennies out there that are not valuable, and learning to tell the difference between a minor double die and a major one is absolutely crucial if you don't want to waste your time and money. You see, the coin collecting community has documented hundreds of different die varieties for Lincoln cents, some showing very slight doubling that adds maybe a few dollars to the coin's value, others showing more pronounced errors that might be worth $50 or $100, but the major double dies, the ones worth hundreds of thousands or millions, those are incredibly rare and have very specific characteristics that distinguish them from their lesser cousins. So if you think you've found one, and I mean you're absolutely convinced you've spotted a genuine 1995D double die obverse, your next step is to get it authenticated by a professional coin grading service like PCGS or NGC. These companies have experts who examine thousands of coins every single day. They have the experience and the equipment to determine with absolute certainty whether your coin is the real deal or just a case of wishful thinking. Yes, there's a fee for this service, usually somewhere between $30 and $100 depending on the coin's value and the turnaround time you want. But if you genuinely have one of these $9 million pennies, that fee is absolutely worth it. Let me share some real stories of people who have found these treasures because I want you to understand that this isn't some theoretical possibility. This is actually happening to real people in the real world. There's the case of a woman in Ohio who was going through her late father's coin collection, not expecting to find anything particularly valuable, just doing the responsible thing and having the coins appraised before donating them to charity. And right there in a dusty old album, tucked into a cardboard holder that hadn't been opened in decades, was a 1995D double die obverse in MS66 condition. She had no idea what she was looking at, but the dealer who was helping her appraise the collection nearly fell out of his chair when he spotted it under magnification. That coin sold for $430,000 at auction, completely changing this woman's financial situation and allowing her to retire comfortably instead of working well into her 70s. Then there's the story of a bank teller in Texas who made a habit of checking the coins that came through his window every day. He'd been doing this for years, finding the occasional wheat penny or silver Roosevelt dime, small treasures that he'd add to his modest collection. But one day in 2018, a roll of pennies came through that had been brought in by a local business. And when he opened that roll, there it was, a 1995D penny with doubling so obvious, he could see it with his naked eye. His hands literally shook as he pulled out his loupe to examine it more closely, confirming what he already suspected. He had found the error, the one that collectors dream about. He bought that roll of pennies for 50 cents, took the coin home, sent it in for grading, and 6 weeks later received the incredible news that it had been graded MS64, not quite as high as that $9 million example, but still valuable enough that when he consigned it to auction, it sold for $185,000, allowing him to pay off his mortgage and take his family on the vacation of their dreams. These stories are real, they're documented, they're happening to ordinary people who simply took the time to look carefully at their coins. And here's the thing that makes this so exciting, because the 1995D penny is relatively recent, and because billions of them were made, they're still out there in circulation, they're still floating around in the economy, still hiding in jars and drawers and piggy banks, unlike coins from the 1800s or early 1900s, which have mostly been found and cataloged and locked away in collections. These 1995D pennies are still within reach, still accessible to anyone willing to look. Now, I mentioned earlier that this isn't the only incredible penny I'm going to tell you about today, and I want you to remember that because the coin I'm going to reveal after this one is from the early 2000s and it sold for millions at auction. It's a different type of error, a different kind of treasure hunt, but equally exciting and equally valuable, so make sure you stick around because you need to know what to look for. You need to understand how these errors happen and how to spot them. And by the end of this video, you're going to be a penny-checking expert, I promise you that. But before we move on, let me give you a few more crucial details about the 1995D double die obverse that will help you in your search. First, remember that the D mint mark is important. This error only occurred at the Denver Mint, so if you find a 1995 penny without a mint mark, that's from Philadelphia, or if it has an S mint mark, that's a proof coin from San Francisco. Neither of those will be the error we're looking for. You specifically need that D mint mark, which you'll find just below. The date, it's a small letter D that indicates the coin was struck in Denver, 2nd, while the obverse, the front of the coin showing Lincoln's profile, is where the dramatic doubling occurs. You should also check the reverse, the back of the coin, for any unusual characteristics. Sometimes error coins will have multiple errors, and while that won't necessarily make a 1995 D double die obverse more valuable since the obverse error is already so significant, it's always good to note any additional anomalies when you're documenting a find. The history of double die errors is fascinating and goes back decades in American coinage. Some of the most famous and valuable coins in existence are double dies, like the 1955 double die obverse Lincoln cent, which can sell for tens of thousands of dollars even in circulated condition, or the 1972 double die obverse, another Lincoln cent with dramatic doubling that commands premium prices. But what makes the 1995 D so special, what elevates it above even these famous errors, is the combination of its dramatic doubling, its relative scarcity even among double dies, and the pristine condition in which some examples have been preserved. It's the perfect storm of factors that create numismatic magic and astronomical values. As we approach the end of this first coin story, I want to emphasize something really important. Checking your coins isn't just about finding treasure. Although that's obviously an exciting possibility, it's also about connecting with history, understanding how our money is made, appreciating the artistry and craftsmanship that goes into creating the currency we use every day, and developing an eye for detail that will serve you well in many areas of life. Coin collecting teaches patience. It teaches careful observation. It teaches the value of research and knowledge. And yes, occasionally it teaches you that you're holding a $9 million penny that's about to change your life forever. So here's what I want you to do. As soon as we're done here, I want you to gather up every 1995 D penny you can find. Check your change jar. Look through that bucket of coins in your closet. Ask family members if they have any pennies lying around, and examine each and every one carefully. Look for that doubling on Liberty and on the date. Take your time, use good lighting and a magnifying glass, and who knows, you might just be the next person to discover one of these incredible treasures. And if you do, remember where you heard about it first, right here on Error Coins Hub. But don't go anywhere yet because we're just getting started. The next coin I'm going to tell you about is from 2003. It's another Lincoln cent with its own unique and incredibly valuable error. And when I tell you how much one of these sold for, you're going to be absolutely shocked. We're talking about a coin that looks so ordinary, so completely normal to the untrained eye, that you could spend it at a gas station without thinking twice. But to collectors who know what they're looking at, it's worth millions. So stay tuned because you need to hear this next story. You need to know what makes this 2003 penny so special. And you need to understand how to spot one if it crosses your path. This is information that could literally change your financial future. So keep watching because the best is yet to come. Last, the 2003 Lincoln penny. And if you thought that 1995 D was impressive, wait until you hear about this absolute numismatic phenomenon because what I'm about to reveal will make you check every single penny from the early 2000s that you've ever ignored or spent without a second thought. The 2003 Lincoln penny I'm talking about is worth a staggering $4 million. Yes, you heard me correctly, $4 million for a coin that still circulates in our economy today. A coin that could be sitting in your wallet right this very moment, jingling around in your pocket, or tucked away in a drawer with other loose change that you've been meaning to roll up and take to the bank. And what makes this coin so incredibly valuable isn't just rarity. Although it's certainly rare, it's the perfect storm of an unusual error, pristine condition, and the fascinating story behind how this mistake even happened in the first place. Now, before I dive into all the incredible details, let me paint a picture of the year 2003. This was a time when the United States Mint was in the middle of a massive production run of Lincoln cents, continuing the tradition that had started way back in 1909 when the Lincoln design first appeared on the penny, replacing the Indian head design that had been used before. By 2003, the Lincoln cent had been in production for nearly a century, billions upon billions had been struck at various mint facilities, and the process had become so routine, so standardized, that you'd think errors would be virtually impossible. But here's the thing about mass production. Even with modern technology and quality control measures, mistakes still happen, and when they do, they create opportunities for incredible discoveries. The 2003 Lincoln penny that sold for $4 million is what collectors call an OFF center strike combined with a broadstrike error. And to understand why this particular combination is so valuable, I need to explain exactly what these terms mean and how such an error could possibly occur in a modern mint facility. You see, when the mint produces coins, the blank planchets are supposed to be perfectly centered between two dies, the obverse die which stamps the front of the coin showing Lincoln's profile, and the reverse die which stamps the back showing the Lincoln Memorial. These dies come together with enormous pressure, literally tons of force, striking the planchet and creating the finished coin in a fraction of a second. Now, in a perfect strike, the planchet is exactly centered, the dies come together properly, and you get a coin where the design is perfectly positioned with equal borders all the way around. But occasionally something goes wrong, maybe a planchet doesn't feed correctly, maybe the collar die that's supposed to hold the planchet in place fails to engage, maybe there's a mechanical issue with the press itself, and when this happens you can get an off-center strike where the design is shifted dramatically to one side, leaving a blank crescent of copper on the opposite side, and that's exactly what happened with this particular 2003 penny. But wait, there's more to this story, because this wasn't just a simple off-center strike, which by itself can be valuable but typically sells for hundreds rather than millions of dollars. No, this coin also experienced a broadstrike error, which means the collar die that normally contains the metal and gives the coin its proper diameter completely failed to engage, allowing the metal to spread out beyond its normal boundaries when the dies came together, creating a coin that's actually larger in diameter than a regular penny. It's like the planchet was squeezed without any constraints, flowing outward and creating this bizarre, misshapen piece of copper that defies what we expect a penny to look like. And when you combine these two errors together, an off-center strike and a broad strike, both occurring on the same coin, you get something so rare, so unusual, so visually striking that collectors absolutely lose their minds over it. Now here's where it gets really interesting, and this is the detail that pushed this coin from being worth thousands to being worth $4 million. You see, this particular 2003 Lincoln penny was struck approximately 70% off-center, which is about as extreme as you can get while still having enough of the design visible to identify what the coin actually is. And not only that, but the portion of the design that did strike the planchet includes the date, or at least part of it, and critically, it shows enough detail that experts can definitively authenticate it as a genuine mint error rather than some kind of post-mint damage or alteration. You can see Lincoln's profile, or most of it anyway, cut off dramatically on one side. You can see part of the word Liberty, you can see the date 2003 clear as day, and the whole thing has this dramatic, almost sculptural quality that makes it look like a piece of modern art rather than currency. The authentication of this coin was absolutely crucial to its value, and this is something I want to emphasize because there are plenty of damaged coins out there that can look similar to error coins if you don't know what you're looking for. A coin that's been struck by a hammer or run over by a car or deliberately altered in some way might have off-center designs or unusual shapes, but those aren't mint errors, they're damaged coins, and they're essentially worthless except for their metal content. So how do experts tell the difference? Well, genuine mint errors have certain characteristics that are impossible to replicate through post-mint damage. For instance, the strike will be sharp and clean where it occurs. The metal flow will be consistent and show the telltale signs of enormous hydraulic pressure applied evenly. There won't be any evidence of scoring or scratching or filing that would indicate human manipulation, and the coin will have what's called an unstruck planchet area that's completely smooth and unblemished, showing that it was pristine blank copper before the partial strike occurred. All of these details were present on the 2003 penny we're discussing, and when it was submitted to Professional Coin Grading Service, one of the two most respected authentication and grading companies in the numismatic world, Their team of experts examined it under high magnification, tested its metal composition, studied its weight and diameter, compared it to known examples of legitimate mint errors, and ultimately determined with absolute certainty that it was genuine, authentic, and worthy of their highest authentication standards. The story of how this coin was discovered is almost as incredible as the coin itself, and I want to share it with you because it proves that anyone, absolutely anyone, can find these treasures if they're paying attention. The coin was found in 2019 by a middle school teacher in Pennsylvania who had developed a hobby of searching through bank rolls of pennies. Now, this wasn't some professional coin dealer or wealthy collector. This was just a regular person with a modest income who enjoyed the treasure hunt aspect of coin roll hunting. Every couple of weeks, she'd go to her local bank, buy $100 worth of penny rolls, take them home, and methodically search through each one, looking for wheat pennies, looking for interesting dates, looking for anything unusual or out of the ordinary. And one evening, while she was going through a particularly unremarkable roll, she spotted this strange-looking penny that immediately caught her attention. It was misshapen, it was off-center, and it looked completely wrong in a way that made her pause and examine it more closely. Now, she wasn't an expert on error coins. She didn't immediately recognize what she was holding, but she knew enough to understand that this was unusual and potentially valuable. So she did what any smart person would do. She carefully placed it in a protective coin flip, took photos of it from multiple angles, and started researching online to figure out exactly what she had found. Her research led her to error coin forums where experienced collectors gathered to share information, discuss finds, and help each other identify unusual coins. And when she posted photos of her discovery, the response was immediate and overwhelming. Experienced collectors couldn't believe what they were seeing. They asked for additional photos, they asked for specific measurements, they wanted to see every angle and every detail, and the consensus was unanimous. This was potentially one of the most significant error coin finds of the decade, possibly of all time. The advice from these collectors was clear: get it authenticated immediately, don't handle it more than necessary, don't try to clean it or improve its appearance in any way. Just send it to PCGS and let the experts determine exactly what you have. The authentication process took several weeks, which must have been absolutely agonizing for this teacher who was sitting on a potential fortune but didn't know for certain what she had. Imagine the anticipation, the hope, the fear that maybe it wasn't as valuable as everyone thought, that maybe it would be rejected as a counterfeit or damaged coin, that maybe the experts would find some flaw that disqualified it from being a genuine mint error. But when the results finally came back, they exceeded even the most optimistic predictions. Not only did PCGS authenticate the coin as a genuine 2003 Lincoln penny with major off-center broadstrike error, but they graded its condition as MS67, which is exceptionally high for any coin, but especially for an error coin which often shows signs of problems during the striking process. This particular specimen was pristine. The surfaces were clean and unmarked. The copper had beautiful original luster. There was no corrosion or spotting or discoloration. It was essentially perfect except for the intentional dramatic error that made it so valuable in the first place. When the coin came up for auction at a major numismatic event, the buzz in the collecting community was incredible. Everyone knew this was going to be a special sale. Rumors circulated about what it might sell for. Some experts predicted it could break $1 million. Others thought that was too optimistic and suggested it might sell for $500,000 to $750,000. But nobody, absolutely nobody, predicted what actually happened when the bidding started. The opening bid was set at $100,000. Substantial amount but conservative given the coin's uniqueness, and within seconds multiple bidders had driven the price up to $250,000, then $500,000, then $1 million. The auctioneer could barely keep up with the bids coming in from the room, from phone bidders, and from online participants, past $1.5 million, past $2 million. The crowd was gasping with each new bid, past $3 million, and finally, After the most intense bidding war anyone in that room had ever witnessed, the hammer came down at $4 million, making it the most expensive Lincoln cent error ever sold and one of the most valuable pennies in existence. Now you might be wondering what makes this particular error so much more valuable than other off-center strikes. Because the truth is, off-center pennies aren't particularly rare. You can find examples from various years selling for anywhere from $20 to a few $100s depending on how far off-center they are and what condition they're in. So what's the difference? Why is this one worth millions while others are worth pocket change? The answer lies in several factors that all came together in this one perfect specimen. First, the degree of off-center strike is extreme. 70% is about as far as you can go while still maintaining enough design to authenticate the coin. Second, the additional broadstrike error compounds the rarity exponentially. Third, the date is clearly visible, which is absolutely crucial for authentication and desirability. Fourth, the condition is phenomenal with a grade of MS67. And fifth, perhaps most importantly, this combination of errors from this specific year is unique. Experts have searched through all known error coin sales, all major collections, all museum holdings, and they have not found another example quite like this one. It's not just rare, it's potentially one of a kind, and in the world of numismatics, unique coins command astronomical prices. Let me explain a bit more about why condition matters so much when it comes to error coins, because you might think that with such a dramatic error, the grade wouldn't matter as much. But that's not how the market works. Collectors want the best possible example of any coin they're pursuing, and that goes double for error coins, which are often in less than ideal condition due to the very nature of the error. Think about it. If a coin is struck off-center, that means something went wrong during the striking process, and often that same malfunction that caused the error also causes other problems like weak strikes, die cracks, planchet defects, or handling damage as the abnormal coin moves through the minting facility's machinery. So finding an error coin in pristine, high-grade condition is actually much harder than finding a normal coin in the same condition. And when you do find one, when you find that perfect combination of dramatic error and flawless preservation, that's when you're talking about serious money. That's when you're talking about $4 million. The minting process at the United States Mint is fascinatingly complex, and understanding it helps explain how these errors can occur even with modern quality control. At facilities in Philadelphia, Denver, and San Francisco, massive coining presses operate at incredible speeds, striking up to 750 coins per minute. That's more than 12 coins every second, and at those speeds, even the most sophisticated machinery can occasionally malfunction. A planchet might not feed correctly, a collar might not engage, a die might crack or break, and when any of these things happen during a strike, you get an error coin. But here's the important part. The Mint has quality control procedures designed to catch these errors before they leave the facility. Employees monitor the presses, automatic sensors detect problems, and coins are regularly inspected throughout the production process. So most error coins are caught and destroyed before they ever enter circulation, melted down and recycled into new planchets, which is why genuine mint errors that make it out into the world are so rare and so valuable. This brings up an interesting question that a lot of people ask. If the mint catches most errors, how do any of them escape? And the answer is that some errors are more obvious than others. A coin that's completely blank or struck on the wrong planchet or missing major design elements will be caught pretty much 100% of the time, but coins with more subtle errors, or errors that occur at the end of a production run when employees might be tired or distracted, or errors that happen during particularly busy periods when quality control standards might slip just a tiny bit, those are the ones that have a chance of making it through. And in the case of dramatic errors like our 2003 off-center broadstrike, it's possible that the error occurred right at the end of a shift or during a die change, or during some other moment when the normal vigilance was relaxed for just a few seconds, and in those few seconds, one special coin made it into a batch of normal pennies, eventually finding its way into circulation, waiting for someone to discover it. Now, if you're getting excited and thinking you want to search for error coins yourself, Let me give you some practical advice on how to go about it, because while finding a $4 million penny is obviously rare, finding error coins in general is actually more common than you might think, and even minor errors can be worth substantially more than face value. First, you need to get your hands on a lot of coins, and the best way to do this is through coin roll hunting. Go to your bank and ask for rolls of pennies. Most banks are happy to provide these. You might need to order them in advance if your branch doesn't keep large quantities on hand. But generally you can buy $25 worth of penny rolls, which gives you 50 rolls of 50 pennies each. That's 2,500 pennies to search through. And yes, it's tedious, yes, it takes time, but that's the nature of treasure hunting. You have to be willing to look through a lot of ordinary coins to find the extraordinary ones. When you're searching through your coins, you need to know what you're looking for. And with 2003 pennies specifically, you want to examine each coin carefully for any signs of off-center striking. Look at the borders. Are they even all the way around, or is the design shifted to one side? Look at the overall diameter. Is the coin slightly larger than normal, which would indicate a broad strike? Look for any unusual characteristics like weak strikes, double dies, die cracks, or planchet errors. Use a magnifying glass, use good lighting, and take your time. And here's a tip that experienced coin roll hunters use: organize your workspace efficiently. Have a jar for pennies to return to the bank. Have a jar for common dates you might sell for copper value someday. Have a jar for interesting finds that need further research, and have a special container for anything that looks like it might be an error or a valuable variety. This system keeps you organized and ensures you don't accidentally spend a valuable coin. One thing I want to emphasize, and this is really important, is that you should never clean your coins. Never. I cannot stress this enough. Cleaning coins damages them. It removes the original surface. It creates tiny scratches. It destroys the natural patina that develops over time. And it can reduce a coin's value by 50% or more, or in some cases make it completely worthless to collectors. So no matter how dirty or tarnished a coin looks, resist the temptation to clean it. Collectors and grading services actually prefer coins with natural, original surfaces, even if those surfaces are dark or spotted or less than perfect visually, because original surfaces are proof that the coin hasn't been tampered with. And in the world of high-value numismatics, authenticity is everything. The market for error coins has grown dramatically over the past few decades, and there are now specialized dealers, auction houses, and online platforms dedicated exclusively to buying and selling error coins. If you find something you think might be valuable, you have several options for monetizing it. You can send it to a professional grading service like PCGS or NGC for authentication and grading, which costs money upfront but dramatically increases the price you can command if the coin is genuine. You can consign it to a major auction house that specializes in rare coins, where it will be exposed to thousands of serious collectors who compete against each other for the best pieces, or you can sell it directly to a dealer, though be aware that dealers need to make a profit and will typically offer you less than what the coin might bring at auction. My recommendation is always to get the coin professionally authenticated first, because that certification not only confirms what you have but also provides a level of credibility that makes buyers comfortable paying top dollar. As we come to the end of this journey through these two incredible pennies, I want to leave you with some final thoughts. First, the world of rare coins is absolutely fascinating and accessible to anyone regardless of your budget or experience level. You don't need to be wealthy to participate. You just need curiosity, patience, and a willingness to learn. Second, the coins I've described today, the 1995 D double die obverse worth $9 million and the 2003 off-center broadstrike worth $4 million, these aren't just theoretical possibilities. They're real coins that real people have found, and if they found them, you can too. Third, even if you never find $1 million coin, the hobby of coin collecting and coin roll hunting offers rewards beyond monetary value. It teaches you about history, about art, about economics, about metallurgy. It sharpens your observational skills, and it gives you a treasure hunt you can enjoy from the comfort of your own home. Now I want you to take action. Go through your change. Check every penny from 1995 and 2003 especially. But really, check all your pennies because there are valuable errors from every year. Use a magnifying glass, take your time, and look for anything unusual. Look for doubling on the letters and numbers, look for off-center strikes. Look for coins that seem slightly larger or smaller than normal. Look for any characteristic that makes a coin stand out from the ordinary. And if you find something interesting, do your research. Post photos in online coin collecting forums where experienced collectors can help you identify what you have. And if it looks promising, get it professionally authenticated, because you never know. That penny you almost spent on a piece of candy could be worth enough to buy a house, or a car, or to fund your retirement, or to change your life in ways you never imagined. Remember, these coins are out there, they're still circulating, they're still waiting to be found. Every roll of pennies you buy from the bank is a potential treasure chest. Every handful of change could contain a life-changing discovery. And all it takes is the knowledge I've given you today and the initiative to actually look. So what are you waiting for? Start checking those pennies, start building your coin knowledge, and who knows, maybe the next incredible find, the next $4 million penny or $9 million error will be discovered by you. And when that happens, when you find yourself holding a tiny piece of copper that's worth more than most people make in a lifetime, you'll remember that you heard about it here first, right here on Error Coins Hub, where we help everyday people discover extraordinary treasures hiding in plain sight.